He didn't say he loved her. He didn't write it in a message, or say it in the 2 seconds of static-laced calm delay before a shift handover, or find a reason to stand near the observation window when she was there so it might come out sideways, disguised as something about the stars. He said none of it. What he did was smaller and took longer, and left no record anywhere a person would think to look for one, except the shift logs, which is where Ensign Priya Akanjo eventually found it, 9 months after it started and 3 weeks before anyone said a word about it out loud. Idris Vale had run the same rotation for 9 years. Third shift, propulsion deck, 2200 to 600, unbroken, because he had told his supervisor once, early, when it still needed explaining, that he preferred the quiet hours, and after 9 years nobody asked him to explain it again. It was, as far as anyone on Ceres Relay Station was concerned, the single most reliable fact about him, more reliable than his last name. Then, 11 months ago, Dr. Anna Reyes transferred in from the Ganymede Survey Wing to run atmospheric diagnostics, and her rotation, assigned by a scheduling algorithm that had never met either of them and did not care, put her on first shift, 600 to 1400. For 4 months, nothing changed. Idris worked his 9-year rotation. Anna worked hers. They overlapped for exactly 40 minutes at handover, twice a week, when Propulsion Diagnostics ran a joint check with atmospherics, and in those 40 minutes they talked about compressor variance and condensation rates, and once, a documentary about deep-sea fish that neither of them could remember the name of afterward. Then Idris requested a rotation change. He filed it through the standard channel, no explanation attached beyond the single required line, personal scheduling preference. And it was approved without comment, because 9 years of flawless third-shift performance buys a person the right to change their mind once. He moved to first shift, 600 to 1400, the same shift as Anna Reyes. He never told her he'd done it. He didn't need to. Within 6 weeks, the pattern was fully in place, and it was Priya Akanjo, running a routine cross-reference on shift logs for an unrelated staffing report, who noticed it first, because she was the kind of person who noticed things by accident and then couldn't stop noticing them on purpose. Idris's breaks lined up with Anna's to the minute every day, not close, exact. When Anna's diagnostic run went 19 minutes long on a Tuesday, Idris's break, logged separately in a different department by a different supervisor, went 19 minutes long too. "He's not doing this by accident," Priya said, showing the overlapping logs to Chief Renata Alves in the galley, the 2 printouts laid side by side like something she'd caught him doing wrong. Renata didn't look surprised. She'd noticed something too, from a different angle, weeks earlier. Idris had started requesting the small, yellow-fleshed apples from the station's produce allocation, the ones from the Titan greenhouse shipment that nobody else on the station liked because they were more tart than sweet. Renata had assumed it was a change in his own taste until she watched him, 3 separate times, leave the apple on the counter outside diagnostics without a word, and walk away before Anna came out to find it. Anna had mentioned once in passing months earlier that the tart ones were the only kind her grandmother used to grow. He had heard that once. He had never brought it up again. "He's not doing anything, Doctor," Mercer Wu said, when the 2 of them brought it to him, mostly because Mercer processed the station's medical leave paperwork and might know something. He filed for a dental appointment rescheduled 2 months ago, moved it from Thursday morning to Thursday evening. He checked the file to be sure. Reyes has her only unscheduled window Thursday mornings. He'd have had that appointment during her open slot. Nobody said the word love. It wasn't a word that fit the size of what they were describing. It was smaller than that, and it was also, somehow, larger. The accumulation of a man rebuilding an entire operational schedule, one unremarkable decision at a time, around a woman who had not asked him to and did not know he had. Anna Reyes did not know because she was not looking for it. She had spent 6 years learning not to read too much into attention from men who were simply present, because presence was cheap on a station this size. There were only 41 people on Ceres Relay, and overlap was inevitable, and she had decided a long time ago that inevitable overlap did not mean anything beyond itself. She noticed Idris was often around. She noticed the apples and thought the greenhouse allocation had simply changed. She noticed he'd moved to first shift and assumed, because it was the least complicated explanation, and she preferred those that he'd just gotten tired of nights, the way people eventually do. She did not check the shift logs against her own. She had no reason to. Reading that deeply into a coincidence would have meant admitting she wanted it to be true, and she had a rule about that, made a long time ago and never revisited, that she did not examine. The refrain, when it came from Priya, and it came almost by accident on a Tuesday in the corridor outside diagnostics, holding both printouts. "I don't think he's being convenient," Priya said. "I think he's been rebuilding his entire life around your schedule for 9 months and hasn't told you, because he doesn't think it's the kind of thing you tell someone. I think he thinks showing you is the whole message." Anna looked at the logs for a long time, long enough that Priya started to worry she'd overstepped. Then Anna said, very quietly, "The apples," in a voice that suggested several other quiet, small, previously unremarkable facts were rearranging themselves behind her eyes at the same time, all at once, into a shape she had spent 6 years actively not looking at. She did not go find him that day. She sat with it instead, turning it over, because a discovery this size does not get processed standing up. The clock started 11 days later, and it started with orders, not with a deadline anyone had chosen on purpose. Anna's transfer to the Europa Relay came through on a Monday morning. A promotion, technically, a lead position on the ice shelf survey team. The kind of posting she had put in for 2 years ago and half forgotten she'd applied to. 11 days, no extensions, no appeal window. Europa Relay had exactly 1 crew rotation per cycle, and this was it. She told Priya first because Priya was standing there when the notice came through. She did not tell Idris. She told herself this was because there hadn't been time yet, and mostly believed it. Idris found out the way he found out everything that mattered on the station, sideways, through Renata, who mentioned it in the galley without thinking, assuming he already knew, because surely someone had told him. He did not react in front of her. He finished his coffee. He said something about the compressor variance being worse than yesterday's numbers. Then he went back to his rotation and worked the rest of his shift, 600 to 1400, exactly on time, exactly as scheduled, the same as he had for the past 9 months. That evening he filed a transfer request of his own. Europa Relay, Propulsion Division, General Technician. A lateral move at best. A step down from his current seniority at worst, since Ceres ran 3 propulsion techs and Europa ran 1, and that one did every rotation there was. He filed it before he told anyone. He filed it before he told her. He filed it, in fact, before she had said a single word to him about the orders at all, because he had decided, the way he decided things, quietly, and then simply began doing them, that the schedule question had already answered itself. Anna found out about his transfer request the same way the whole station found out about anything. From Mercer, in Medbay, filing the corresponding physical clearance. She came to find Idris on the observation deck, where he was not supposed to be during his rest hours, and was anyway, because it was the one place on the station that faced the direction Europa would be in 11 days. "You didn't ask me," she said, not accusing, working something out loud. "I didn't think it needed asking," he said. "I don't know what it looks like on your end, I only know what I want it to look like on mine." He paused, and the pause did the thing his 9-month schedule had been doing all along, said the real sentence underneath the smaller one. "I moved my whole life 11 months ago and never told you why, because I thought if you noticed on your own, it would mean something. And it did. It just took 9 months and Priya Akanjo's staffing report to get there." She almost laughed and didn't, because laughing wasn't the shape the moment wanted. "You could have just told me." "I could have," he said, "but you'd have had a choice to make about how to respond to something I said. This way you had a choice about something I did. I thought that was fairer." He looked at her, and for the first time in 9 months did not look away first. "I'm not asking you to stay. I already filed for Europa. I'm going either way you decide, because staying here without your schedule to build mine around doesn't make sense to me anymore, and I'd rather be wherever the compressor variance is worse, and you're in the room." "That's not a declaration," Anna said, and her voice had gone thin in a way that meant something underneath it was not thin at all. "No," he agreed. "It's a rotation change. I've made a few of those. They tend to say more than I do." Neither of them said the word that day on the observation deck, with Europa a bright, uncertain point somewhere past the window. It did not need saying. 9 months of 40-minute overlaps had already said it, in the only language he apparently trusted, logged, time-stamped, filed in triplicate, and entirely, deliberately, without explanation. 11 days later, the transport manifest for Europa Relay listed 2 names for the same rotation, on the same shift, for reasons the assignment algorithm logged as a simple staffing coincidence. because the algorithm had no way of knowing it was reading the last page of something that had been written, one unremarkable decision at a time, for the better part of a year. Priya kept both printouts. She filed them under a label that made sense only to her: proof of work. Proof of work.